Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. There are many vehicles in the works making their way through the pipeline, so today, let's take a look. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Cannot do this without you guys, so thank you so much for the support. It is truly appreciated. Now firstly, the monthly report mentions that progress was made on 4 unannounced ships. The first one has just entered production, the second has progressed towards its upcoming white box review gate, while the third continued down the production pipeline with artists currently awaiting feedback from the level of detail review. And the fourth, it says, received considerable attention during its white box phase, particularly around the cockpit entry requirements, as it will receive entirely new enter and exit animations. Now, all of these sound like they are mostly quite early on in the production pipeline, aside from this one in the LOD review. This one, I suspect, is referring to the teased Prowler that we saw during the newsletter sneak peeks. It will be interesting to see how the enter and exit animations work, as we already have quite a few methods of getting in and out of ships and vehicles, so introducing an entirely new method should be pretty cool. For this Prowler variant, with Alien Week almost upon us, I suspect we will see that one released there. Now, there are still plenty of other vehicles left to be revealed from the CitizenCon silhouette teaser, so I'm assuming these will be some of them, and I'm really hoping that we see this weird Drake-looking compact Corsair thing sometime soon. Anyway, moving on to the vehicles that we know about. For the Anvil Paladin, which is a gunship, this progressed through Greybox and benefited from the work that was done on the Anvil Asgard, helping to speed up its production. For the Pioneer, this is the huge base building ship. It says it continued its long and extensive white box phase, with the team saying the sheer scale and complexity of this ship means this is a longer than normal phase, which, as you can imagine, will take some time to release. I'm not expecting to see the Pioneer this year personally. I think next year is far more likely, alongside the first rollout of base building, or slightly after the first iteration of base building, as they can and likely will use a smaller vehicle or that base building module to introduce the mechanic before ships like the Pioneer come along. That said, it is still possible. I know during their silhouette teaser state for CitizenCon, which was last October, it did say these vehicles will come along within the next 12 months. So I think it might be their intention to release it this year, but it certainly isn't something that should be rushed. Anyway, next up, we have an update on the Drake Ironclad, which is a very cool large freighter from Drake, or you've got the sort of militarized Ironclad assault. Not sure if it's referring to both here or one or the other, but it says that after a short pause to help close out the ships for Invictus, work resumed on the Ironclad with focus on blocking out every room with the appropriate Drake kits. Now, that's quite an interesting sentence. Blocking out usually refers to the white box phase, where they create a very simple block out of the interior just to ensure that the metrics are correct, things can move through the interior properly, while also finding space for everything like components, for example. But with it saying Drake kits, it sounds like this could mean that they are blocking out areas of the Ironclad with spaces already well beyond white box, likely minimum grey box, so having defined shapes and so on, but I suspect that these kits are actually much further along than Greybox, likely completed assets that can just be slotted into place, leaving the more bespoke spaces for the Ironclad to be blocked out, which would then need to go through the process of white box, grey box, LOD, final art, and so on and so forth. Kind of similar to what they're doing with the Polaris, the Perseus, and the Galaxy, reusing assets that can be reused, but still having to create all the bespoke areas from scratch. Now, I don't know how much of the Drake kits can be used for the percentage of the Ironclad, but it is quite likely that there is a lot left to do for the Ironclad, but it sounds like a lot of it can be reused from ships like the Corsair, just kind of copy and paste. So, saving a good chunk of time, but it's a big ship with a lot of quite unique areas, so yeah, I'm personally hoping to see the Ironclad come along for the IAE, but we'll see. I think it is most likely. Anyway, next it says, with the Guardian MX now live, the team moved on to closing out an upcoming variant for its impending release, and this ship has passed its final review. Now, I am not sure what this variant could be. Do let me know what kind of Guardian variant you would like to see. This one, I feel, could come along for potentially the next patch after 4.2, which could be a 4.2.1.2, or maybe even 4.3, but it sounds like it's very close to releasing and is coming pretty soon. It also mentions that an unannounced vehicle passed its white box review following minor adjustments to one of its key mechanics. Now, this one is speaking of a ground vehicle specifically. As we know, they specified that there are 4 unannounced ships in production. This one speaks of a vehicle. This one is likely the remaining Atlas platform vehicle in the silhouettes highlighted at CitizenCon. Not sure what its mechanic will be or its key mechanic, but I am very interested to see what it is and how it differs from the other Atlas platform vehicles, if that is the vehicle that's coming. Next, we have an update on both the RSI Apollo Medivac and Triage, which are medical response ships, both passing their grey box reviews with a focus on ensuring that the medbed module tier is distinct without being disruptively different to use. Now, I am very glad that they have now specified that both the Triage and Medivac are in production, at the same stage of development as well, as I believe this is the first time we have heard them mention that both variants are getting worked on and it not just being one or the other. Now, grey box means it still has quite a bit of work to go, but I can absolutely see these both coming along for the IAE in November, and interesting that they say that each bed tier module will be distinct but not disruptive to one another, meaning that the visuals of each bed will be different, so you can tell them apart just by looking at them, without them kind of overlapping or getting in the way of each other, so the assets of what surrounds them, I presume. Now, I'm also very interested to see that with the introduction of the Apollos, whether it will bring any changes or updates to the medical mechanics. Now, there is a lot that CIG want to do to advance the medical profession and make it a lot more visceral rather than it just being beams. But whether that comes with the release of the Apollos or not is yet to be seen. I also personally don't expect to see the drone rescue beds release with it. It is possible, with how base building is pushing and utilizing drones quite heavily in the process of base building, it isn't out of the question that the drone sort of rescue beds could come with the Apollo, but I just personally don't feel so. I do hope so, though. Now, finally, we have an update on the RSI Perseus, which is a large patrol ship. This says it continued through Greybox and is ready for its gate review. Now, I certainly think they will be releasing the Perseus for the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo in November, especially as a lot of its assets have been reused from the Polaris. Not to say there's not a lot of work to be done, it is a big ship, but a lot of it was already handled with the Polaris, so very excited to see this one come along, and with the Idris, the Polaris, the Perseus going toe-to-toe as a group, that would be pretty epic. In fact, make sure you watch the VOD from my last stream towards the sort of last hour, as while we were doing our Idris trading post, we actually got attacked by a rogue Idris. I believe it was a solo player who, we had a ton of people, traders and buyers on board the Idris who all rallied together to man the turrets and help out, and kudos to everybody who took part in that. It was a lot of fun, but do check that out. So getting a Perseus as well as a patrol ship to kind of secure the area will be quite an interesting addition. Anyway, there you go. That is all of the latest updates on ships and vehicles currently in the process of making their way out. As I say, Alien Week is almost here, so I fully suspect that they are holding on to the new Prowler for that release. But other than that, most of the others will likely release for the IAE, although I'm sure we will see plenty of ships and vehicles come along with many of the patches throughout this year anyway. Do let me know what you are most excited for, or what vehicle you're most excited for. For me, probably the Ironclad, I think. I'm intrigued to see what is going to happen with medical profession when the Apollos come along, if anything, but the Ironclad is certainly a hyped ship for myself. Also, if you want to convert your phone or tablet into your ship's dashboard, do check out GameGlass, who are offering 15% off a lifetime pass or 10% off an annual or monthly pass. You can use it for free. You get up to 3 shards, including this Aegis one, But using that link below will not just take you to that deal, it will also provide my channel with a direct kickback, helping to support my videos. So big thank you to those of you who have and intend to do so. It is much appreciated. Anyway, with that said, I will be away on holiday from next Monday till next Friday, back for the weekend. So there may not be any other videos from me until then. Hopefully I can squeeze another one out, like a off-grid episode, we'll see. But if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. If you want to come and hang out over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother or here on YouTube while I stream, you are more than welcome to. If you want to come and join in on the trade post, if there's something you're looking to buy or sell, again, you're all more than welcome. Just hop by and mention it in chat. We'll invite you in. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you'd like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. You guys are amazing. Thank you for the extra support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.